time for public participation. The Board of Education values the perspectives and participation of our community members. Public comment provides an important opportunity for individuals to share their views on district matters. The board encourages comments, feedback, and input from all voices in the community, including those who may have differing opinions and perspectives. The California Office of the Attorney General asked us to share that, in their view, matters pertaining to specific identifiable students or any group of students should remain private to the extent possible. If you have a complaint about an employee or student matter, please utilize the appropriate complaint procedure. Contact Dr. Rudy Wilson, Assistant Superintendent of Compliance, who can assist you with filing any such complaint. As a reminder, not all speech is free from consequence, and since this is the board's meeting in public, where minors may be present, we encourage all participants to conduct themselves in a civilized, non-threatening manner. Thank you for your cooperation and for contributing to a civil and student-focused discussion. Members of the public may address the board on matters within its jurisdiction by submitting a completed registration card to the clerk or designated staff member prior to the start of public comments on agenda items. When called, speakers may proceed to the podium, state their name and trustee area, and speak for the allotted time. The amount of time will be announced by the board president before the first speaker begins and will not exceed 3 minutes. Consuelo, how many speakers do we have tonight?
We have 46.
So your time is 2 minutes to speak.
The clock is not on.
Your side is not on?
Nope.
They'll get it.
We start? Okay, Jean Sacklin with 2 items.
Welcome, Jean.
Do I need to wait for it?
No, because her buzzer's not on. Her light.
6:32. Ours is working here. Okay, it's working now. Tonight I'm here to address the issues of book banning and layoffs. Book bans harm students, silence diverse voices, and undermine academic freedom. Banning books allows a single individual complaint to take parental controls away. We trust professional librarians. We respect educators' expertise, protect our student rights to access diverse stories. Layoffs are harmful to our students and their families, and they are unnecessary. Please reassess your priorities.
Thank you, Jean.
Erica Grossman with 3 items, 14M, 17A, 21A.
Welcome, Erica.
This is regarding staff attending professional meetings and conferences, and I believe the majority of our RUSD staff conduct themselves professionally as educators while representing our district. Unfortunately, I learned that when our school board members, Candy and Janet, attended a California School Board conference in Sacramento earlier this year, they were protesting transgender children. Candy posted a photo of herself and Janet on her Instagram account with a well-known anti-trans activist holding a sign containing a hateful message toward transgender children. Even if they protested during their personal time, it is deeply concerning for elected officials to use a taxpayer-funded trip and their positions as school board members to protest transgender issues. Additionally, the trans activist whom Candy and Janet protested alongside made headlines last year for stripping down to a bikini top and bottoms at a school board meeting. Her children reportedly left her due to abusive behavior. Your behavior is highly unprofessional. If teachers were found protesting against racial minority with hateful messages during a taxpayer-funded trip, they would face serious consequences. As elected officials, I expect you to conduct yourselves professionally and uphold the values of respect and inclusion when representing our district. Okay, on to 17A. Regarding layoffs, our TA stated the district was misleading about the 13% raise for teachers. The deputy superintendent identified this as a major contributor to the deficit, and I request clarification. I've also seen claims that expanded Title IX enforcement is costing district money due to past scandals. These measures, however, are essential for student safety and for protecting the district from future litigation. Superintendent Cabral stated that most sexual misconduct incidents are student to student, and that the district failed to adequately address this in the past. Taking appropriate action should reduce reports and related costs. I believe the actions of Candy, Jeanette, and Michelle also contributed to an increase in complaints, so you should be working to reduce it as well. Special education spending has increased by $12 million, reportedly due to a 10% rise in student needing services over 9 years. There was also $5 million in overspending on a single outside agency last year. If that amount went to one agency, how much was spent on all agencies? The district relied heavily on outsourcing rather than hiring paraprofessionals, significantly inflating costs. The district's history of denying service has resulted in litigation and additional expenses, including placements in non-public schools with the district covering tuition, transportation, and bus aids. Clearly, multiple factors must have contributed to the $17 million deficit. It is hard to trust a cabinet that fails to provide transparency and instead chooses layoffs. One more. What is this obsession with books? Please provide evidence that reading books with sexual content has caused the students to engage in sexual misconduct or sexual assault. As the superintendent has stated, most reports of sexual misconduct are student to student, and we clearly need meaningful action to reduce incidents. It is quite embarrassing that sexual assault is being addressed by restricting books. The book Genderqueer does not promote sexual behavior. It explores young person discovering their identity. Most importantly, it teaches that you do not have to do something you are uncomfortable with, and that is perfectly fine. This is a crucial message for young people. Interestingly, many anti-trans figures argue that teens are less interested in sexual behavior nowadays, and that this is one of the main reasons that teens become transgender, which does not make any sense. I'm very confused by the idea that some people claim to want to promote sexual behavior among teens, while also wanting to remove anything that contains sexual content from books. I don't understand why people are so obsessed with teen sexual behavior. I find it quite pervasive. An individual who challenged the Bluest Eye and Push claimed that books about sexual assault causes teenage boys to experience arousal, that only sexual scenes from the books remain in your mind for life, and that menopausal women don't understand. This is deeply disturbing. I don't know whether he was describing his own experience and applying it to the general public, but that reaction is deeply concerning and reflects a lack of education. On the other hand, books like Genderqueer teaches self-awareness, consent, and personal boundaries, lessons that help prevent harm rather than cause it. That is far more effective than what you are doing. You're just wasting our resources.
Thank you, Erica.
Next, we have Sue Heedy with 2 items, 17A and 21A. Sue Heedy with 2 items, and then Michael Pacer with 2 items, 17A and 21A.
Welcome, Sue.
Thank you. I'm a parent to 2 students in the RUSD schools. I'm talking about the reduced workforce. Dear school board, at the last meeting, I implored you to put on your creativity hat in order to prevent reducing the school workforce. And yet, instead of promoting new innovative ideas, you put more positions on the list that you can potentially eliminate. We have board members sitting up there not understanding that your job is to listen to your constituents. We are your boss. On Saturday, I was at a presentation by the San Bernardino County Unified School Board president, and she hammered that sentence into us attendees over and over again. Your job is to listen to your constituents. Your top priority should be listening to your constituents and follow our concerns. We have been promised certain services for our children, especially in the special education department. With less personnel doing the same amount of work, what do you expect will happen? Burnout and sick leave and kids falling through the cracks. Okay, I'm moving on to the next. I didn't know I had 2 minutes. New library material adoption policy. Dear school board, it's getting tiring to sit here and listen to your vendetta against our school librarians. Does any of you have a library and information sciences degree? Because if you want an extra set of eyes on the library material being accepted into our schools, you don't ask the janitor to have the last word. And what does a school principal know about each and every book at the school library? His or her knowledge is limited. They have enough on their plate as it is. If you need more people who you are actually now trying to, who you're trying to lose their jobs according to next year, why not ask our district librarian? Pull in the experts that are already working for our schools. But you don't want that, right? Because you don't want people with relevant knowledge. You want people instead who might join your white Christian agenda. So last year I spoke to you guys too, but like I said in the last meeting, you're not listening. But I'll try again. We have a phenomenal Children's Literature Festival at the University of Redlands. It's happening March 6th and 7th. It costs pennies compared to what you just put yourself in races on the school board. I really implore you to attend, to learn what really quality children's literature is today. We have some of the top authors and illustrators speaking to hundreds of people, including our school professionals, about how to make better choices. So could you, if you attend it?
Thank you, Sue. Welcome, Michael.
Mike Paisner, parent in Area 5. Instead of cutting staff positions, I urge you to ask a question. What is and what should be normal? There was a time when normal meant turning a blind eye to sex abuse against children and paying for the resulting lawsuits. Now normal is an extra department to investigate complaints and prevent sex abuse. However, you haven't yet figured out how to pay for this new department. Instead of clinging to old approaches, cutting critical staff, we need a new normal for budget cuts. Paying executive $230,000 to $300,000 per year plus benefits while eliminating positions that directly support students should not be normal. Instead, cut executive salaries and truly prioritize student success. Make that the new normal for balancing our budget. If our current normal isn't prioritizing student success, shouldn't we try something else? Next item. Library materials. It's embarrassing when people with no knowledge of library science attempt to write library policy. Your ineptitude is obvious by insisting materials be wholesome. Samples of literature currently studied include Romeo and Juliet, where the protagonist commits suicide, Lord of the Flies, where schoolboys descend into savagery, and Fahrenheit 451, where books are burned. The word wholesome does not apply to these classics of literature that absolutely should be in our library. This policy also prohibits perceived pornography. I'm sorry, perceived by who? The weirdo that obsesses over which book passages will arouse teenage boys? The weirdo that speculates on the sex drive of menopausal women? Is that who we are supposed to trust to define perceived pornography? And heaven help me if the person who thinks a roadside memorial is a satanic altar says we should trust her common sense. Please, this policy is a bad joke. Try again.
Thank you, Michael.
Next, we have Dale Broom with one item, 21A, followed by Daniel Ambriz with one item at 17A, and Gina Porter with 2 items.
Did you say Dale Broom? Yes. Yeah. I just can't hear it. There's too much noise.
Welcome, Dale.
Thank you. Yeah, this is Dale Broom. I wanted to discuss the library material agenda item that's on discussion 21A. And, you know, in a school district, we need accountability. Accountability is very, very important. Accountability for everybody, including librarians. And so we've had now, and presented to you guys on the school board, that there have been 2 sexually graphic books that, of particular note, have pornographic images in them that have been placed in our school libraries. One of those being It's Perfectly Normal, that was placed in a middle school library with 60 images of full frontal nudity, 6 images of couples having sex, 4 of which are completely uncovered. And there was no record. This is now an old book. It's now been removed or lost. It hasn't been on the shelf for many years. But the point is that there's no record of who put those books in the library. And we need to have a process by which that is documented, who approves certain books and allows certain books to be shelved in the library. And now we've uncovered that another book called Genderqueer has been placed on the, in one of our high school libraries. Now that book, I've looked at it, it has sexually graphic images, including oral sex, okay? And there are things in there that are just not appropriate. In fact, it's pornographic images. Even though they may be cartoonish images, they are pornographic. And so the point is we need a policy that clearly delineates and warns the librarians that they are not to place books, and they should screen the books to make sure that there are not pornographic images and sexually explicit content. And if there's any question, then that could be referred to the higher administrative level committee before they actually place those on there. So in any event, we need a policy to deal with this, and accountability is very important. Thank you.
Thank you, Dale.
Gina Porter with 2 items.
What about Daniel? You said Daniel was next.
Daniel Ambriz.
Hello.
Welcome, Daniel.
Good afternoon, or evening, I guess. So I was here about 3 years ago when we rolled out inclusion, and I put forward a request for you guys to come to one of our sites. That site was Smiley, yet to see any of you show up. I sent you an email earlier today. In lieu of these budget cuts, you guys should roll up your sleeves, come to our sites, work our jobs. Don't bring any cameras, because I know that we like popping on the Instagram. I know we like looking at the socials, and we like getting our pictures up there. I want you to show up and work in one of our moderate severe classrooms. You're going to have to leave the heels at home. You're going to have to leave the ties at home. You are going to have to possibly assist a student bleeding from the head who is defecating. These are the people who you're considering cutting. Our counselors, our health technicians, our paraprofessionals. I told you 3 years ago, we didn't have the infrastructure, and lo and behold, look at we are 3 years into inclusion, system's not working, crazy. We're going to cut more people? Are you out of your mind? What are you thinking? What's it going to take for you to understand that this is a rash measure that's not going to help anybody? Is it going to take a student dying in one of our offices because we don't have a health technician? Is it going to take a nervous breakdown from one of our students because we don't have counselors? What needs to happen for you to get common sense in? What I think needs to happen is come to our schools. Do not come with a camera crew. Come on your free time. The plan I proposed is, I would love it if one day a week, every board member volunteers. I want to see you guys there. I would love to have you there. I'm at Smiley. You can find me any time of day there. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Welcome, Gina.
Hi. I have actually 3 cards, but I'm a little confused as to.
I think maybe the other one is a regular comment.
Yeah,
those are at the end.
It also deals with the negotiations, so I wasn't really sure. No.
No, I don't see one.
Okay. So it is orange. It's going to be for the end.
Let me see. You can start.
Okay.
You can start and then.
Okay. And then one other thing before you start time. I have some documentation I was interested in sharing with the school board members, but I didn't have time. My daughter had a doctor's appointment. I didn't have time to go and make copies at Office Depot. Is that? Thank you. All right. My name is Gina Porter. I'm the teacher librarian at Citrus Valley High School. Tonight you're being asked to accept the 25-26 LCAP mid-year update, which is fantastic. 2 weeks ago, the board voted 3-2 to approve a plan to cut up to 135 positions. Mine is one of those positions. I am one of the staff members who received a letter informing me that I may not have a job as I'm currently employed. The irony of this is that many of the 135 jobs that you're looking at potentially cutting are the very jobs that are being referenced in this LCAP report. These are our ACCs, our academic case carriers, our guidance counselors, our school nurses, our FACE liaisons, our librarians, our library paraprofessionals, our special education paraprofessionals. I can't speak for everyone, but I have talked to some of my colleagues who received that letter and who have been at the meetings trying to find out what is going to happen to our jobs. Speaking bluntly, we're scared. We are worried. We are stressed, not just for ourselves and our jobs, but for the students who count on us. Yet every day we come to work, we put on a brave face, we put on a smile, and we show up for our students because we are professionals and we are here for them. I ask you to please look for other ways, consider other things that think outside the box. These kids need us, and we're here because we love what we do. They say you get into teaching not for the income, but for the outcome, and I think that is true for a lot of us. So that's the first thing. Okay. This goes along with the packet that I wanted to share with you all. I'm voicing my objections to discussion item 21A. The selection criteria that RUSD librarians have in place does not exist in a vacuum. We did not pull it out of thin air. We did not create it on a whim. Similar to Board Policy 1312.2, the one before it was changed in August, these policies follow industry standards across the board, regardless of the political climate or partisan leanings of the school boards at the time the policies are adopted. Librarians rely on the informed evaluations of trusted publications whose primary purpose is to review and evaluate young adult and children's literature for content and age appropriateness. We consider the needs, wants, and requests of our students and staff. We follow the Library Bill of Rights as set forth by the American Library Association, and we look to organizations such as CSLA, the California School Library Association, for guidance in choosing materials that will be appropriate for and enjoyed by our students. The item up for discussion tonight flies in the face of the district's own policy 6163.1, which states that, quote, the governing board believes that school libraries have a responsibility to nurture intellectual growth and freedom. Other school districts, and I want to really point to Tracy Unified School District in that packet as a primary example. Other school districts trust their librarians to do right by their students, and they have codified their support for libraries and librarians into their board policies. My question is, why won't this board? Thank you.
Thank you, Gina.
Lindsay Schmitz with 2 items, 21A and 17A, followed by Joshua Hall with 2 items, 17A and 21A.
Good evening.
Welcome.
I'm from Area 3. I have a joint statement on the library media adoption and resolution 2025-26-17. The time for civil discourse is done. Stop telling me how to raise my children. A quality public education entails access to a multitude of award-winning, diverse, and culturally significant books, which qualified, trained, and trusted members of the education community have selected for inclusion in their libraries and schools. Your kids can stick to wholesome texts if you want, but by making these decisions and changing these policies, you are infringing on my rights as a parent and as a citizen. You are harpies at the feast of knowledge, sirens singing a song of porn in the libraries to crash this district into the rocks with our children in it. You have behaved not only ignorantly, but arrogantly. You think you know better than people better educated and better read than yourselves. You have no humility. And now you've begun to target these people to threaten their jobs and silence them to cover your disgraceful financial decisions. You are the poisoners of Socrates, the imprisoners of Galileo. Your LGBT students suffer, and you shout, let them eat cake, while you remove resources and endanger them. And 70 years ago, you would have been the people screaming at a little black girl on her way to school, accusing her of corrupting your children. Get your filthy, bigoted hands off my children's education and my community's jobs.
Thank you, Mitzi. Joshua. Welcome, Joshua.
I'm going to be brief on 17A. The problem that I have with 17A is that the majority of the layoffs are coming from the bottom, and only 3 administrators are being laid off from the top, so that needs to be more equitable. I'd also like to speak about the book ban. None of these books are actually being banned. We've said this before. My side has said this before, and we'll say it again. You can get all these so-called books that are being banned anywhere. Just because they're not available in the school library does not mean they're being banned. They're available at Smiley Library, the city library. You can get them online. You can go to Barnes & Noble. They're not banned.
Thank you, Joshua.
Next, Peter Hall with 2 items, 17A and 21A, followed by Pat Molnar with 1 item, 21A.
Welcome, Peter.
So 17A, I think most of the people here, regardless of their politics, agree that the school board should cut positions from the top instead of from the bottom. And like so many other people have said, a lot of the positions being cut are teachers, librarians, paraprofessionals, and even health workers. And like they said, cutting these people is not going to save you money in the long run. You're cutting services, and that's going to jeopardize students. So I actually agree with everyone here who's speaking out against 17A, even though I don't agree with most of their other positions. So that's all I have to say about that. My next comment is going to be about the library policy. As my brother said, these books are not being banned. They are available outside the school. They're easily obtainable. And the people who are complaining about this so-called book ban are actually trying to get the school district to restrict access to information that only the school board can provide. Last meeting, they were talking about restricting parental notification, especially in regards to students' records, even in regards to student medical records, which I think is insane. California has passed a law about this, and even though it's against the law for the schools to notify parents in sensitive matters regarding their children's medical records, that law should be repealed. All it does is it puts a wedge between children and their parents or their otherwise specified legal guardians. Parents or the legal guardians should know everything about their children, even if it is sensitive, and we should not allow children to keep secrets from their parents. This is also in regards to the so-called forced outing policy. I mentioned this last time I was here too. This is not a forced outing. The students are coming in and telling everybody on campus that they're gay or they're trans or they're whatever. The only people left out of the loop is their
Peter,
parents.
I'm sorry. Did you come back and do all this at public comment time at the end?
Yes.
Because this doesn't have anything to do with an agenda item.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, I'll speak for 30 more seconds on the book ban.
No, on the...
Okay.
Oh, okay. On the library...
Yeah, the book ban.
Policy. Okay.
Yeah. Children should not be... even though pornography and questionable content is easily accessible to students, especially because of the internet, that does not mean that the school should encourage it in the classroom or in the library.
Thank you, Peter. Welcome, Pat.
Yes, I put it on the wrong card because my phone was dying, and I only had the one card open. Could I please speak on both things now?
So she's asking to speak on 17A as well as 21A.
Oh, you registered on one card?
I wrote it on the wrong color because that was the only thing left on my phone before it died.
Okay, you may go ahead.
Okay. So speaking on the layoff, I want to echo what a lot of people have said. You are destroying the base of the tree instead of trimming the top, where these cuts should be coming from. You are endangering the most vulnerable kids. You are endangering kids the ACCs that keep kids coming to school, the foster kids, the kids who need extra support in all sorts of ways. The layoffs are going to harm children. You can be more creative than that. We need more competence from you in that as a board. Stop just blaming past administrations and start being more creative. Roll up your sleeves, please, and look for other ways rather than damaging the people who keep these kids alive, who transport these kids, who teach these kids, who keep these kids safe at school. We expect better from you. So that's on layoffs. Okay, and for the other one, which is on book selection policy, I have a report card for you. I've been teaching 30 years. I feel that I'm owed a little humor here. So, first of all, on understanding your job, at least from a certain portion of the students I see here, I give you a D for poor effort and little responsibility. So, if understanding your job in terms of you guys being able to choose books is what I'm talking about here. If you can't bother to know what STEM is, Jeanette, if you don't understand the book policy and the reasons for choosing it, as Gina just excellently described to you, if you disregard her expertise, you do not understand your assignment. So your book policy is poorly written. Also then, we have language. For our language grade, I give you a D-, a generous D-, because you are using vague words. Vague is a big bad word in English classes. Intentionally vague. Using words like wholesome. Using words like choice. Using words like controversial and pornography. Excuse me if some people find things like sexual assault arousing. That's a you problem, sir. Not the student's problem. And the very people who are most threatened by this, who need these books, who need books like Genderqueer, they need to see themselves shown. I taught your child, Michelle. You can't even bother to meet me. So in terms of understanding the assignment, you promised to meet and you wouldn't. That's a you problem. I'm there. I'm willing to meet with you. But in terms of wholesome, who's going to determine that? Do you listen to your constituents, what that means? You do not. Do not go to one church's attitudes on what is wholesome, because we are not one church. Lastly, collaboration with the whole group, your whole constituents. So on a group grade, ignores and insults groups you don't like and destroys unity. So by questioning only the person who is not white, that is not a good thing.
Thank you, Pat.
Yeah, I hope so.
Next, we have Valerie Savis with 2 items, 21A and 17A, followed by Emily Hebner with 1 item, 21A.
Welcome, Valerie.
Thank you. I wanted to comment on the budget crisis this district is facing. The situation was created with the approval of Patty and Melissa when one-time COVID funds were available. They knew it was temporary, yet raises were given and staff hired. That locked the district into ongoing expenses without ongoing funding. Now the money is gone and the budget must be balanced, yet those same board members are refusing to accept responsibility. You cannot spend temporary money on permanent costs and then refuse to accept the consequences. Children even know the simple concept. That is not leadership, that is irresponsibility. I heard the gentleman from RTA explain the cause of this, but I also heard Mr. Hill explain it at a previous meeting. Regardless of the reason, I really hope all board members that you can come together to work on a reasonable resolution for all staff, all these families affected by this awful situation, because most of which sound like they're pretty critical positions. And then my other card. I support the library and media center materials policy. School libraries should be places of trust, but when it comes to minors, trust requires oversight and clear rules. This policy is simple. Decisions about library materials must be approved, documented, and tied to a name. The only reason to oppose that is to avoid accountability. While Patty and Melissa keep telling us to trust the librarians, Genderqueer, a book many parents find inappropriate for children, ended up in a school library. That leaves one question: how? This policy will answer that question in the future. With it in place, there will be no secrecy. Patty and Melissa, trust does not replace oversight. Blind trust failed here. Our children deserve better, and they deserve responsible governance. Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie.
Good evening. My name's Emily Hebner, Region 1. I've been an educator, community college and university level mostly, but I was very active in PTA when our child was growing up in Glendale. I worked in English and theater departments. Regarding library material adoption policy, it sounds like you're thinking about. It does sound, I would say it sounds like a great idea, and that it would be great to advocate. I would advocate for choices of materials for the students, choices that all families could agree on. So perhaps thinking about books on civics and finance. I don't think you'll find that disunifying. And if the mission of the school board or the district is to help unify the community, maybe there's some better choices to be made. For reluctant readers, I think graphic novels are fabulous, audiobooks as well. There's a good graphic novel out now about civics. So to educate our young people about how this country came to be so successful and how to perhaps preserve the best aspects of that, that seems educational to me. I would advocate for keeping families excited about public school. There's a risk of losing active families to private school, charter schools, homeschooling. But public school is one of the great gifts in the United States. People move here because of our public schools. So I applaud what you're trying to do. Keep going.
Thank you, Emily.
Next, we have Avery Johnson Johnston Cabral with 1 item, followed by Nicole Mateson with 1 item.
Welcome, Avery.
Hello, Board. I am a library paraprofessional at Bryn Mawr Elementary School. I am acknowledging the book bans. I'd like to acknowledge the hypocritical decisions that are being made regarding with the materials allowed in the library. At my site, a majority of the students from 3rd to 5th read at an advanced level, and I'm not talking about a 3rd grader reading at a 4th grade level, although that's not to be dismissed because that is something to applaud them by. I'm talking about a 3rd grader reading and comprehending at a 7th or 8th grade level. If you add even more restrictions than what you already have, you are limiting so many students who obtain the reading and comprehension skills that are way above their grade level. Because of your limitations, my students are not only losing access to a handful of reading topics, both fiction and nonfiction, but they're forced to read at levels that are so beyond their capabilities. To make matters worse, you are removing us from our positions, so not only are they losing access to books, they're losing us. If your child was in the district, how would you feel looking them into the eyes, knowing that you're the reason their favorite staff member who understood them better than a teacher could, better than you guys could, is now gone? Or that their safe place is no longer an option? You say you have the students' best interests at heart, but your actions are completely hypocritical.
Thank you, Avery. Welcome.
First time up here, so I'm
Welcome.
nervous.
I didn't catch your name. I'm sorry.
My name is Nicole Matson.
Nicole, welcome.
Yes. I'm speaking on the Title 17, yes. Good evening, board members. My name is Nicole Matson. I am an LVN for Redlands Unified School District. My position and the expansion of the health department, were created because of students not receiving the medical care required under their IEPs and 504 plans, which are legal binding documents. At one point, this entire district had only 3 RNs and 2 health techs, which led to serious gaps, including years of hearing and vision screenings not being logged and lack of medical care for students. By reducing our medical staff, it will again lead to gaps, decrease enrollment, and cause possible future lawsuits. Our health department provides families peace of mind, knowing a trained medical professional is on campus to keep their child safe. Teachers and staff are not required to have CPR certification, but us medical staff members, we are. Reducing the very people trained to save lives can put students at risk. Just last week on a field trip, my medical training helped save a student from choking. Thank you. Thank you. For the past 4 years, I have served as a one-to-one LVN for a highly medical needed student. Because of this support, that student has been able to safely attend school and thrive academically. He has as he is legally entitled to. I am trained and licensed to perform the following procedures for students requiring complex medical care, including G-tube feedings, seizure monitoring, catheterizations, diabetic medication management, and so much more. I not only speak as an LVN, but also a parent of a child with a disability. I know firsthand how critical nurses, health techs, and medical staff are ensuring students safely access to free public education.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.
Next, it's Mark Lair.
Welcome, Mark.
Thank you.
You have 12 items.
Yes, I do. I will be starting with 12A. So part of 12A, I'm part of Area 2. Remember that, Michelle? Part of Area 2 that voted for Measure D. Measure D, the thing that you needed for that 7,000 new bleachers that you're voting on. Remember, elections are in November, Michelle. They're coming up pretty quickly. And I don't know if you know this, but where I live in Area 2 is a new development. I've been knocking door to door. It's a pretty big development, actually. You might have seen it. I enjoy living there very much, and I'm very close with my community and my neighbors. And just as you needed their support for Measure D, for this to pass, you're going to need the support of me and my neighbors to get reelected this year, my friend. And right now, let me be honest, I've been talking about the embarrassment that has been this financial crisis, this board. And honestly, it was embarrassing our school even got to the point where we needed Measure D, that they were so unsafe that we needed to get to that point. So, Juan Cabral being nominated for the best superintendent? I'm sorry, I think not. There is no vision on this board right now. There is no vision. I want a vision of student success. I want a board that brings my students safety and success at every meeting, not culture wars and division. We are the United States of America, and I'm not feeling so united right now, especially not by this board. I see you. You sit on separate sides, and yet you ask for my Measure D funds to go and make all these improvements at these schools using my property taxes, my money. And guess what? I support that. My students deserve this money, but you also waste their money on lawsuits and other things, Michelle. And I've tried to talk to you. I've tried to reach out to you. I live in your area and you won't even communicate with me. Your social media is a ghost town, my friend. We can't even get into touch with our own representative for our area. I've reached out. Where's my emails, Michelle? All right, moving on to now 12B. Guess what? That's still Measure D. That's right. $151,207 on facilities. Once again, how did we let it get to that point, Michelle? Poor leadership? We shouldn't be needing that much money in facilities repairs. Our students deserve world-class education, and you have failed them, especially my trans students, my queer youth. I wouldn't feel safe in your district. I just went on a wonderful, wonderful trip with my district where we formed unity. I wish that we had money for A, these basic repairs that we need, but B, for that, Michelle. But instead, you waste it on poor leadership, meetings that run every day until 3 in the morning. Yes, 3, 2, 1. I'm tired of showing up to these meetings. I was just camping with 75 teenagers in the mountains. Overtime. I didn't get the 3-day weekend that y'all got. And here I am, after a long work day, 8 hours, full time, as a library media technician, mind you. Not in this district, because I would never want to work in this district under its current leadership. I'm grateful every day for my job, and I'm grateful every day for my community, but this leadership of this board, every time I'm here, I'm embarrassed. And every time I talk to my community, I'm embarrassed, and they're embarrassed of you. So, remember, Measure D, just as this item says, was voted for by us, and you are voted for by us. And I am knocking door to door. I just talked with my neighbors yesterday. They're not voting for you. They're not. Be mindful of your choices going forward, Michelle, because everybody's paying attention. And I will make it known. All right, now let's talk about 12C. Orangewood High School restroom project. You know, I love this project because every time it comes up, I get to talk about trans students. Because you know who uses restrooms? Trans students, right? The very ones that we should be keeping safe in our schools. And yet, Candy, this is in fact relevant. Thank you for looking over to Michelle. It is in fact relevant because, as I said, trans students do in fact use restrooms. Do you have any questions on that? Or do I need to clarify that all people of all gender identities use restrooms? That seems like something that would be pretty basic for an educated professional to understand. Especially one that should have firm understandings of ed code, where that's required under law, that any student is able to use the restroom of their own gender identity. Yeah. But I thought we didn't pay attention to those laws. I thought we just tried to pass forced outing policies for our trans students, take away books that make them feel seen. But meanwhile, we're up here doing our own, gender affirming care, aren't we, Candy? Allegedly. But anyways, I'm really glad that Orangewood High School is getting these restrooms. Our students deserve the very best facilities. Once again, I do question, though. Where did the funding for this come from? Was it Measure D? Because if it was Measure D, I'd like to know, because once again, it was your elected constituents who got you that funding, Michelle. And TikTok, we're coming up pretty quick on November, aren't we? But I really hope that those restrooms help our students, because I don't know if any of you have ever known what it's like to have to hold your bladder for the entire day because of gender dysphoria and all of the things you put our trans youth through. And without our nurse, I wonder how they're going to get through that, especially. And no, not for top surgery, because the nurses don't do that, because they use their bathroom half the time, don't they? They shouldn't have to. Okay, next one, board payment report, 12D. So I just wanted to talk about the board payment report, and I wanted to talk about the abhorrent choice that this board made, especially during a budget crisis, to raise your wages $1,400 a month. That's right. I know some board members that make about $400 a month. I literally am friends with these board members, and I'm not going to name names, but I am family friends with many board members. They make $400 a month. They don't do it for the paycheck. Seems like some of you do. And some of you are claiming that it was required under California law. No, because in some of those board members that I spoke with did not raise their wages this year because they knew it would hurt student success. And shouldn't the board share that shared vision of student success? I think that they should. In fact, I think every educated professional should always share the shared vision of student success. Do you, Juan Cabral? I think that a leader that is the best superintendent up and coming should, in fact, be driving our board to cohesive leadership. You sit on opposite sides. It's embarrassing. I go to board meetings and I see unity. I see student success. I see student focus that drive every meeting, not division and culture wars. Yeah, it makes me sad too, Candy. I fully agree. It makes me really sad that we can't have awesome meetings that just drive our students to success. Instead, we have to go on and on and on about all these things because you continue to pass illegal policies and waste our money and lay off professionals. I was just on that field trip that we were talking about. Guess what? I had a student with diabetes. That student had low blood sugar, and I had to run down a mountain to go get that student an orange. It was closer than the nurse, and it wasn't that bad, but that was my other alternative, right? I ran. Students' success and safety is always my number one priority. I really hope it's the boards. I'd like to see that. Next up, let's talk about 13A. Wrestling. You know who also wrestle? Our trans students. You know, the ones that we tried to ban. That illegal policy that y'all keep bringing up over and over again. But also those same students, too. I thought we didn't want to recognize their culture or anything about them because we also passed that policy, right? Well, anyways, it is my hope that these students, regardless of who they are, have a wonderful time on their wrestling trip. Because it shouldn't matter binary lines. Who is going on what trip? Once again, it should be student success. Not male success, not female success, not cis male success, not cis female success. It should be student success. What are we not getting, Jeanette, Candy? And Michelle, I like it if you would look at me when I'm talking rather than dig through your purse, especially when you're on the ballot this November. Yeah, okay, it's fine. You can continue rummaging through your purse while I talk about wrestling. Yeah, wrestling. I'm going to stay on topic so you don't stop me like you always try to stop me. Anyways, let's talk about some of the books that some of those trans wrestling students that we may one day have would find gender affirming within our libraries. Yes, that's right. Books can be gender affirming care. And no, half of these books that y'all try to claim are pornography are not pornography. They are, in fact, supports for students. And I'm not saying every book is meant for every student. Don't get my words twisted. I'm saying the students that seek out some of the materials that we've talked about. And yes, guess what? I've read those materials because one should read the materials in full that they're questioning. Ooh, okay, well, guess what? 13B is also about not trans student wrestling. It's about wrestling, which also, as I remember, trans students can in fact wrestle. So I'm going to talk some more about those potential students. Yeah, I really am. And thank you so much for laughing and chatting up a good one, Jeanette and Candy, while I'm chatting during my time. Really, really shows respect. Thank you. Just like the respect that you show me when you reply, all three of you reply to the feedback that I give you via email and via your social media pages. Oh wait, you hear your constituents. You'd rather talk and rummage through your purses and do all the other things that you do during board meetings. I just, in fact, got a photo of Jeanette on her phone while another constituent was talking earlier. That's right. So, continue to show me the disrespect. It's been noted. It's been very much noted. Thank you. Okay, anyways, back to the topic at hand of trans wrestling. Athletes. I hope that they have a great time on their trip. Also, let's talk about that book, Genderqueer. I'm going to be honest, it made me very uncomfortable reading that book. But guess what? There were multiple pages I read that talked about binding and the process in which it takes and how you can die by doing it wrong. And I would rather a student be uncomfortable than dead. Any questions about that? Because guess what? The students that are seeking out those materials, and like I said, those materials, I read them, made me uncomfortable. Uncomfortable literature is not always bad. Yes, Jeanette, I stand by that. Because you have probably not even read the book in full. I read it this past week. When it came up at this last board meeting, I knew I would have to read the material in full because in order to understand why it exists in a library setting, I had to read the material in full. And like I said, it made me uncomfortable. It did. But also, I've been a queer student searching for my identity, and what I found online made me way more uncomfortable than that book. Anyways, now let's talk about 13C, a cheerleading convention in Anaheim. Actually, I don't feel like talking about that, so I'm going to skip that. Thank you. 14M. Let's talk about the approval for the staff to attend some conferences. Yeah, the one where Candy and Jeanette were representing the district on our taxpayer dollars, staying in our hotels. As far as I'm concerned, when I go on trips with my district, I'm supposed to be professional. I don't work in this district, so you find a very different side of me at these meetings, my friends. But as far as I'm concerned, when I am on taxpayer dollars, I am accountable for how I present myself. Embarrassing that you guys were out there protesting trans kids, when once again, as I said, we should share a cohesive vision as a school board for student success. Student success. Not cis-het male student success. Ooh, I know. Woke. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I just heard that little exasperated come from behind me in the audience. I'm so sorry to be talking about such crazy topics as student success, safety, and making sure that our students feel safe in schools. I am so sorry. It must be really hard for you. Yeah, it must be really hard for those people that, Michelle, don't silence, that talk behind me during my speech. But if I made such a comment, oh, Michelle would be right on it, wouldn't she? Remember, she's up for election this year. Anyways, there's still people talking behind me, Michelle. You always gavel me when I'm in the middle of my conversations, even when they're relevant to the topic at hand. And I have heard no gavel for the comments behind me, Michelle. What's that about? Anyways, 14M. Personally, come on. Oh, sorry. I'm just going to yield that time to not even, because I was still on the last one, but we're good. I kind of wrapped up. Thank you. Okay, so let's move on now. 16A. So, you're trying to subtly pass the release of temporary personnel for 2026 through 2027 school year, and I won't let you. Laying off all these beautiful teachers, SPED teachers, ELOP, and elementary enrichment teachers, counselors, SLPs, librarians, nurses. Their work matters, you guys. And I see all of them. Their names matter. Veronica, Camilla, Stephanie, Michelle, Alicia, Kimberly, Alexander, Jeremy, Tiffany, Karina, Catherine, Christina, Samantha, Sally, Christina, Anthony, Richard, Lalana, Jacqueline, Catherine, Tiffany, Emily, Keith, Tanja, Karen, Angelica, Sarah, Megan, Lorena, Alyssa, Hannah, Louise. I'm going to run out of time, but oh my God, this list, you guys, all of their names matter. I used to work just like that educator was talking about as an elementary SPED para. And you know what I did? I took bites for my students. Because if it became between a student being injured and me putting myself in the way, I would do it. I've been punched, I've been kicked, everything under the sun as a paraeducator, and you're the first ones to cut? Paras? Are you serious? And library technicians, when we have increasing illiteracy, and you guys were so concerned about our library materials. Who is going to vet those library materials? Library materials do, in fact, get outdated as time gets older. Do you want to play the catch-up game? 10, 15 years down the road, and you finally have to weed those materials? That's going to be expensive. What about Williams Act compliance? Remember how I brought that up last time? How are you going to ensure that when those Williams Acts audits come through your schools that you are compliant with every single material that you need in your libraries when you don't have library staff? Or your curriculum is in order? Good luck. I wish you the best of luck. And all of those names that I didn't get to, I'm so sorry, but you matter too. Anyways, now let's talk about 17A. 14,000 times 12. What's that number? 16,800. Yeah, once again, let's talk about how much you guys voted to raise your wages. And all of this budget cut, 16,800 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know if Juan makes that. Honestly, Juan might make that too. Jason might make that for all I know. Respectfully, I don't frankly know, but I do know that most of you up here are now making that wage. And you voted for it. On my dollars, during an election year. Wow, that was pretty brave, wasn't it? I hope that people are paying attention to the mismanagement of funds that's coming from this board. From litigation to wage increases, all at student success. Like I said, I was in the mountains this weekend, and I ran to save my student's life. I would do anything for my students. I don't feel as though this board would do the same. Not all of the board. There's some of this board that very much, I see your policies are in alignment with me, and I'm very appreciative of you. But for the ones that I'm talking to, and you know, especially you, Michelle, you're up for re-election this year. Get it together. This is embarrassing. Our district in financial ruin on your watch. They're trying to blame it on these two. Michelle, you are the president. Get this board together. Get this board together, girl, because it's embarrassing to be at these meetings. It really is. And I'm tired of showing up at these meetings, but guess what? I know that you're just as tired of me, and so are these people behind me, but oh well. I will keep showing up because it matters. I once voted in an election, and my family, that's right, 5 votes, in Rancho Cucamonga, yeah, we got someone on school board. I'll do it again. I'd love to do it again. I'm going to put every single ounce of energy to do that again. All right, now let's talk about B. Yes, that's right. If you have anything to say, then you can say it outside and not during my time. All right, library policy. Wait, no, that's not that one. Let's talk about B. I'm actually requesting some information on why we're partnering with a private religious school in North Dakota for our students to learn health sciences. Don't get me wrong. I actually love that our students are getting this opportunity, but when Loma Linda is right in our backyard, why are we partnering with a school in Loma Linda for health sciences, let alone a private religious school? Seems like we have one right here that's more likely to provide hands-on experience for our students and more resources. And in fact, I love Loma Linda. They saved my aunt's life. Grateful for that hospital. They also provide jobs for people on this board. I can see maybe that would be why you wouldn't do that. I could see that part. But I'll be honest with you. Like I said, I just want more information. There might be I know I'm normally sassy. This isn't me being sassy. I just genuinely, I'm like, y'all, what's the reason why we chose this program over one that's more local? And I would really like you to reach out to me and give me that information, because I think that our money should be spent wisely. And if we can do it more locally, or we can do it more affordably somewhere else, especially in a time when we're looking to cut budgets, I don't think it should come at student success. I don't. But if we can get a different program that will still meet those same needs, that's cheaper and more local, I think that's something that we should be paying attention to at this time when we're looking at our budget. So I would think before passing that one is what I have to say to that one. Anyways, I'm going on for a long time, so I'm going to skip to the next one. 21A, let's talk about library policy. Wholesome material. One second, let me get my wholesome material. I'm sorry. I got this one from my library. They called themselves the KKK. It's not really wholesome. Does it belong in my library? Absolutely. That's right. Audience. Oh, wait, this is for the board. But the board should see the back of the book. Yeah, one doesn't know much about the front of the book without the back. But they called themselves the KKK. That's not a wholesome book. Age appropriate, absolutely. But also, who are y'all to tell me what age appropriate is? I have 20-year-old students that read at a third grade level. And that's where they're at. I'm not shaming them. That's where they're at. That's their ability. I have those materials available in my high school library. I should, right? I also have materials on the Holocaust, which are not wholesome. I have Mein Kampf, not wholesome. Does it belong in my library? Absolutely. Ooh, let's talk about even Number the Stars. That's a classic right there. I love that book. About the Holocaust. Does that belong in my library even though it's not wholesome? I think so. This policy is embarrassing. Perceived pornography, I mean, for all I know, Candy's up there getting off to this KKK hood right here. Is that what your perceived pornography is? I'd like some context. Because that's a pretty broad definition, especially one to paint so many literary materials with. Nonfiction, that's whole sections, yeah, nonfiction. Fiction books. All this policy applies to all of them, the whole library. You better be careful, especially if you want students prepared for their AP exams. If you want students prepared for life. Come on, uncomfortable is not necessarily bad. And not all books are for all students, but this policy, embarrassing. Anyways, it's been real. Bye.
Thank you, Mark.
Next, Valerie Tabor with 1 item, followed by Greg Britton with 4 items.
Welcome, Valerie.
So I'm here to talk about the library materials policy. This policy is not consistent with the policy that you just passed. It is an egregious overreach of power to just remove books that meet a vague definition that has no oversight at all, no community input, not even definitions of these words. What the hell does wholesome mean? What does the prevailing concept of decency mean? That changes person to person. And I want to read an excerpt of the Education Law Policy Statement. Board policies, including library book policies, are unlawful if they are deemed impermissibly vague or arbitrary or capricious. Vague language and overbroad prohibitions may be challenged as having a chilling effect on book choices and speech protected by the First Amendment. The reliance on vague, subjective criteria and failure to require consideration of a book in its entirety, which is why you had to keep the form when you have the book complaints, including whether it has received critical acclaim, may be evidence that the policy is not tailored to be objective and to identify educational suitability, but instead serves to impermissibly enforce a particular viewpoint. Moreover, focusing on specific words or passages under the guise of protecting students from ideas or information ignores the educational or literary merit of books in their entirety and impermissibly permits school board members to impose their viewpoint and idea of what should be orthodox on materials available to students in school libraries. The First Amendment requires school districts to have established, regular, and facially unbiased procedures governing the removal of non-curricular books. Book removals by schools that rely on irregular procedures, like this one, without standards or vague subjective standards as part of its review process, are more likely to violate the First Amendment. Don't pass this policy.
Thank you, Valerie. Welcome, Greg.
Evening. New topic. Oh, by the way, next time I'm going to sign up for 25 different items so I can hear myself ramble longer than otherwise would be permitted. 14E. I noticed there's a field trip for multiple days to Catalina. Sounds nice. 3 days in Catalina. One, with the budget restrictions, is that really a good use of money? Two, you're spending a bunch of money on something that's going to help a very narrow, small segment of your student population, and I just really question whether that's fair. And when you're putting, with the Catalina trip, unlike the athletic trips, you're outsourcing the education. Have you checked out? Have you monitored? Do you monitor what is being taught and presented to the students at these various field trip educational events? The school is required, if you have controversial topics, to present both sides. If they do that in this Catalina trip, talking about the environment and the ocean, is the same rule apply when you outsource the education? And you should make sure that it is, because your job is to educate, not indoctrinate. Related to this, item G, the Hawaii trip. Again, that would be wonderful to go to Hawaii. And congratulations, if the volleyball team deserves it, great. But you're spending a whole lot of money on a very narrow range of students. I really question whether that's really fair or not. In times past, I've seen news reports where the choir or the band or the team wants to go to Europe or something, and they raise their own money. They take responsibility and earn the trip. And that'd be a good thing to apply here. Item L, the partnership with Cal State San Bernardino, written in suitably vague ed speak, talks about equity and bringing presumably students that wouldn't otherwise qualify for Cal State to Cal State. Well, when the left talks about equity, almost invariably they're talking about racial and ethnic preferences, which are illegal in California. Under Prop 209, adopted in the 1990s, and when they tried to repeal it, the voters rejected that by an even wider margin, because the voters understand, the citizens understand, that judging and treating people based on their ethnicity or the color of their skin is wrong. It's also a practically wrong policy, because if students are not prepared they can't qualify otherwise for a university other than by their racial or ethnic identity, then they may drop out. They may not be able to succeed at that. And that often happens where they admit the people based on those criteria, and they can't keep up with people who got there based on merit and competition. So, if that's what's going on, it shouldn't be going on, and you should be clear in what this policy is as to what really is going on. Back to books, of course, choosing appropriate books for children is not banning books, as the left likes to say. We have seen that these librarians, who are supposedly so well trained, have allowed into the libraries grossly graphic, sexually inappropriate books for children. And we elect you, the school board, to run the schools on behalf of we the people. And ultimately, the responsibility for what's happening in the schools lies with the 5 of you. Not with unelected librarians, not with staff, not with the superintendent. They all work for you in running the schools on behalf of we the people. So I commend you for adopting your book policy, and the next policy of, because many of these books we get in there, how did this get in here? We have no idea who approved it. And if the librarians think this particular book is good, they should be willing to put their name, and yes, I think this is good because. And then the principal will look at it and decide whether it's appropriate, and ultimately, if there's a challenge, it comes to the elected school board members, as it should. Now, there's some comments here about the culture war, and we're wasting time on that. says the leftists who turn out in force at every meeting to wage and defend the right to wage culture war in the schools. They talked about the weirdos. Well, the weirdos are the ones that want, we see this all across the nation, not just in Redlands, all across the nation, that want to sexualize children from the earliest age. That, in my mind, in my opinion, is a weirdo. The librarian who spoke said that they rely on the American Librarian Association, which is, by the way, is headed by an avowed open Marxist. Interesting choice.
Thank you, Greg.
B with 2 items, 21A and 17A, followed by Lamar Simmons with 1 item.
Welcome, B.
On 17A, I'm appalled the board is considering these cuts. Candy and Jeanette, you campaigned on protecting children. Does that not extend to kids in special education? Because here you are cutting funding for positions that would keep students safe, including my child and his school. The Redlands Teacher Association, people on both sides of the political spectrum, and I have all informed you of student safety issues because there is not enough support in the classroom. You say you don't have the budget. I have noticed the budget doesn't seem to matter when it comes to security, so you can debate hateful policies that marginalize LGBT plus students. It doesn't matter when we waste everyone's time banning books. It only matters when it endangers students like my child who was hit in the head with a chair in the classroom because there were not enough paraprofessionals to maintain safety. There are ways to fund these positions. I handed each of you proposals crafted in consultation with professionals within the district. Proposals I read out loud because you can't seem to bother reading anything that I hand to you. You don't care about children. You don't care about safety. And I'm not just talking to the 3 board members who we all know will vote 3-2 to cut services to special education in my child's school. I'm talking to Superintendent Cabral, who was up there scowling at me during President Caperton's comments and who has yet to apologize to my child or even acknowledge what happened, despite me explicitly asking him to do so. You, Superintendent Cabral, who sold your soul and participated in the lie about the reason for these cuts. The 4 of you are not interested in protecting students. The only thing you are interested in doing is burning our children's futures to the ground. On 21A, here we are again discussing book bans. This despite the fact that the public made it clear that they are against these policies and provided you evidence showing how deeply unpopular they are. This despite the fact that you already passed policies on this with a vote of 3-2, set up rubrics to evaluate books for perceived pornographic content, hid that Dale Broom submitted 2 books for review, put together expert panels to review them, ignored those panels, and then used your quote-unquote common sense to ban them 3-2. This despite the fact that you, Michelle, said that you were trying not to engage in partisan politics. You still put this abomination of a policy on the agenda that we all know is going to pass 3-2. I don't even know anymore. This isn't participatory democracy. It's just not. Your job is to represent the people, and you are not doing that. You won't speak with anyone who disagrees with you. You won't compromise with the public or with other members of the board. You won't do anything except push your agenda and use your warped judgment to pass these gross policies 3-2. I come here every meeting. I propose ideas. I show you research, legal opinions, talk with employees within the district, and propose ways to address systemic problems, and you just don't listen. So pass your hateful book ban policy. I will continue to show up, and others will continue to show up, so that you continue to feel the heat and the anger from the public that you have chosen to betray.
Thank you, B. Welcome, Lamar.
Oh, thank you. I wanted to talk about the RIF, the effects of the RIF, and as well as the lack of pay increases. I'm going to call it by the numbers. So by the numbers, 7.1% drop in enrollment since 2019. You guys already know it. I think everybody here knows it. A response to that was a proposed cut in 9.85% of certificated staff. These are staff that are in direct contact with the students. And then there was a 2.3% COLA released for statewide for all the teachers for their funding to go up. But we're getting a 0% raise in Redlands Unified School District. But me as a special education teacher and the rest of the special education teachers in our district see a 12.8% increase in students with disabilities. And we're going to face this next year with decreased support and services. There's going to be less librarians, less paraeducators, less assistant principals. It makes our jobs much more difficult to help these students. When even after this, honestly, when I leave here today, I will go and write an IEP for another student. I ask you to consider this and consider other options. Not funding our education devalues it. We need to find another way, please.
Thank you, Lamar.
Next, we have David Kovac with one item, followed by Alicia with one item.
Welcome, David.
I am not speaking to rebuke or criticize any person here. It is not in my nature to suggest to anyone to do something that I have not or would not do myself. I too have volunteered my time in a leadership role, balancing the responsibilities of work, family, and service. I tried to make decisions that did the greatest good. Sometimes the most meaningful decisions are not the broad ones, but the ones that protect and support individual people. After all, a community is made up of human beings. I never believed it was right to ask others to shoulder a burden I was unwilling to bear myself. For all of us that did not receive an RIF notice, I encourage you to join in supporting our brothers and sisters who have. I leave you with this quote from Martin Niemöller. First they came for the socialist, and did I not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionist, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. If I have caused any person here to think twice about their own personal accountability in the RIF issue, then I have done what I came here to do. May God bless us all.
Thank you, David. Okay, Melissa.
Hey there. Good evening, everyone. I'm here tonight because of the district's projecting a deficit of $20 million. I want to say this clearly. Fiscal responsibility matters. A budget that doesn't balance is not sustainable, and ignoring that reality only creates a bigger crisis later. But you all are supposed to know that, right? I'm here to say this, though. The first solution cannot be cutting the people who hold this district together. All these layoffs is just not another budget decision. It's a decision that will be felt in classrooms, in student services, in school safety, at homes, within our community as well as our joining communities. And that's going to be felt immediately. From what I've seen across California, and what appears to be true here, This deficit is not because teachers or school staff failed, it's the result of a structural problem. Declining enrollment and attendance, reducing revenue, combined with ongoing costs that grew during the years of one-time funding, including staffing and compensation commitments that now are colliding with new financial realities. So tonight I'm asking for two things that both sides of this issue should agree on. First, before any layoffs move forward, I want the district to publicly present a clear, itemized list of non-classroom reductions, including administrative staffing, consultants, because golly, contracts and discretionary spending, and show the community, show us, what has already been cut and what is still on the table. Second, I want a plan that prioritizes the attrition early retirement incentives, vacancy freezes, and contract renegotiations before we permanently eliminate jobs that directly support our students. If layoffs become unavoidable, then the public deserves to see proof that the district exhausted every other option first, and that the cuts were made with student impact as a top priority, not the convenience. The district can be financially responsible and morally responsible at the same time, but
thank you.
So,
That was all of our speakers.